Well, hello there, everybody. How are y'all doing? A little Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm telling you what, is that just beautiful or what? I mean, oh yeah, I tell you, I mean, there's such good talent. I lived in Austin, Texas for a number of years. And Brandon, how are you doing? I haven't seen you, buddy. So wherever you are, trust you're doing good. But had the opportunity to see the legend, and wow. Anyway, Mary Had a Little Lamb. I mean, come on. A guy could make a song and really put some soul into it. Anyway, I digress. Hello, everyone in the chat room. Chris, what's up? Scotty Boy, Jeanette, Deborah, Lady Ellie, Paul, Joe, man, everybody else. Deborah, how are you doing? El Gato, good to see you as well. Uh, so many others of you. Fluffy, how are you doing? Good to see everyone. Thank you for being a part of this. There's Lost in Space, long time listener, first time saying hello to everyone. Well, welcome. Speaking favor over you. Speaking of favor, I'll just speak it over us all. We got favor. Yeah. Using the ghost box and speaking favor to whatever's out there, it's interesting. Several times I've heard distinctly, you're welcome. But anyway, nothing missing, nothing broken. That's how we roll, and we love it here. I'm important. Good to see you. And Linda Espinoza, what's up, Jackie J? How are you doing, Dollar? S. Lee, good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, hit the thumbs up. Great group of moderators. Technically, I'd like to make you all moderators, and since you are, but anyway. Rick, what's up? Good to see you, man. Mary Wins, hello, darling. John, what's up? How's everything? Dave, good to see you. Well, Chris, thank you. That's very kind of you. Going to make me blush. Mushkins, how you doing? Good to see you. So I did not watch the freak show, but apparently wow. If you don't believe that this is a realm of madness, man, apparently it was on display last night. So, mm, mm, mm. Nuts. I think I wrote in there to Gilbert's response, it's like, yeah, the politicians today are more like morticians. They're certainly acting like magicians. That's all I got to say. A lot of cult, man, it's everywhere. And every time they get in that chamber, now, many of you longtime listeners, the video series I did, that House of Representatives, the chamber, the House chamber, is a temple. That's what it is. And if you don't think the gods ain't a moving and a grooving, and man, apparently they were angry. The gods were completely, apparently, way off. I didn't watch it, but I'm just hearing. Hello, Ann. Good to see you. And Bonnie, hello. Susie Q, what's up? Good to see you, darling. Lori, happy Friday. Right back at you. Grace, good to see you. Tori, hello. Yeah, the clowns were out. That's what I hear, man. I mean, yikes. So we're going to really get into something. I meant to get a dollar bill. Yeah, I didn't even have a dollar. It was like, I ain't got one. Yeah. Don't have a need for one until now, but anyway, Emperor Rex, good to see you because I thought we'd get into this because thinking about spells and how do they work? Is the occult real? If the occult is real, then how is it impacting us? Is it just the loonies that they call us, or is it the fact that we ain't loony? We just know what the fuck's going on. Why we don't get involved in so much of that, because it's got occultism all around it. Powerful gods and goddesses. And I got a sense that the old ones, they say that the old ones have been asleep. Maybe they're waking up. because they were in full display. Shirley, what's up? Good to see you. Hello, Lee. Well, how are you doing as well? Y'all are just a bunch of beautiful people. I just got to tell you that. Say hi to Gogo and Gaia and Paul. And so many of you. I think Nina the Mystical in here. Voiceover by Stephanie Marie. That's beautiful. Stephanie, that's just beautiful. That's like poetry. So many are called, but few are chosen. Isn't that the truth? And then sometimes it's like you ever seen, I think it was like Bud Abbott and Abbott and Costello in the army now, I think. Anyway, sometimes I feel like I didn't hear the drill sergeant right. I thought he said all volunteers, you know, take one step forward. I didn't realize that his forward was backwards, leaving me the only one there. You know what it's like. You're going, what the no. So anyway, so interesting by the reference to the old gods. We may have opened up a channel of knowledge here by acknowledging that there are other gods. It's no insult to any one belief system. We just simply say there are a lot of gods. Some are older, some are younger. But the older ones, and I'm making reference, many of you I know listen to Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers, and thought it was real interesting in the book. And I went out and got it. Thank you, Ben, on the book. The Coming of Kali. And yeah, it seems like that little lady is mounting up and yeah, and come to find out, they give us a record. So we're going to be getting into more of that in the weeks to come. And with what I'll be getting into next week, there will be other forthcoming. Hey, Paul Joe, Mark Smith, good to see you as well. Off the hook. Hello. So let's get right into this. So, on a kind of a refresher course, because it's been like freaking long time. And so I did this video. I think this one is about 5 years old. And it's amazing how sometimes they become so relevant. So it was titled Strange But True. Love that graphic. What, who, me? What? So, our money, the iconography, the symbolism, the occultism, the acknowledgement to the gods are there. I mean, this is on $100 bill. Hey, my nose is itching. Like someone's taking a little feather, it's like, what? But yeah. Now, just check out this for yourself. Go there and look up and see who this God is. But it's on our money. And our money is so interesting because when you study about engravers, you find out that they are unique. They are very rare. And particularly when you have one who is doing the engraving. Money is a big deal. Money is, in fact, the chief god in this plethora of gods, goddesses. Our capital is adorned by a goddess. The goddess is replete into our money. This is things that most are not aware of. The Masons are responsible for all of this. Every engraver that we're going to study here real quick is and was a Mason. And they actually put it in. And if you look at this, can you see the spirit in there? Yeah. I mean, it's when you examine this stuff that you begin to realize that there's some very strange stuff. It's everywhere. Many of them say that they also foretell the future. Well, why wouldn't they? They're gods. All this is in, and the thing about the $100 bill, this is a tsunami hitting New York City. Then you have all the crazy stuff. And we're going to get into this in another book that I think you'll find very fascinating. This is a missile. Um, Very interesting, the kind of missile that is depicted, but this is a missile that is, the symbology is hitting Washington, D.C. So much crazy stuff, and it's everywhere. So this is where we will jump into this because I think you're really going to like what the next thing is. I mean, excuse me. Do-doot, do-doot. There I am. So cool, crazy stuff. That's all I got to say. And it gets better. So I came across this book, and this really gets deep, deep, deep. And if you like it, then I'd encourage you to get it. This is on my Kindle. Um, this gentleman here has written two books, The Architecture of DC. And when you get into it, you realize that, folks, there is this illusion. That's all I can tell you. So the dollar bill, one of the most used symbols of currency. And we're going to get into, want to get into the story itself. So the dollar. All right, you ready for this? Let me move this down over there. There we go. All right, so the dollar symbol for the dollar does not appear on the dollar bill. It is a curious fact that the official symbol for the dollar does not appear on the bill. The word dollar appears only twice, once on either side of the note. All right. The word dollar came to America from Germany. The word dollar is derived from the German Taler. The name Taler was first given to silver coins made in 1519. This metal was mined in the Joachim Valley, or the Thaler, in what was then Bohemia. And every time I hear that, I'm thinking about the Bohemia Grove out there in Marin County. Yeah. Follow, and those that you're listening, I hope you're watching because it gets really interesting. The averse of one thaler showed the crucified Christ. On the reverse was the image of a serpent hanging from a cross. Check that out. So, I remember when I was doing a whole series on this, someone wrote me and boy, just said, you're a crack, you're at you're off. You just got to smile and say, love you too. Speak in favor, you'll be all right. Near the serpent's head are the two letters NU, and on the other side of the cross, the number 21. This is reference to Numbers chapter 21 of the Bible. In this chapter, we learn of the people of Israel who began to speak against God because of their tribulations and because they feared that they would die in the wilderness. Look, commentary here. Those who study this supposed event, it's really kind of nuts because any archaeologist of that of modern era, and it could tell you when you look at the Sinai where they were supposedly wandering, you can't get lost. I mean, if you go north, you're eventually going to get into the Sinai. The point is, what were these people doing? I mean, I've read accounts where the people of Canaan and many other of the regions around Palestine and what was then back in the day, um, Iraq and Iran, they would look at these people and go, what's wrong with them? They're going in circles. For 40 years, they did this. It is sad that this God that they were following had to kill off all the old people, had to kill out and wipe off that generation so that he could mold and fashion the new generation up more to his liking. I continue reading. As punishment, God sent against them fiery serpents. These bit many of the Israelis, as a result of which a number died. The people of Israel recognized their sin and begged for forgiveness. God instructed Moses to make a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole. Thereafter, anyone who looked upon that image would be cured. Moses did as he was ordered and raised a brazen serpent on a pole. All those who gazed upon it lived. It is this healing metal serpent that is shown on the reverse of the thaler. I smell a rat. In this image, the pole has become a cross, as the artist wished to draw a parallel between the magical healing power of this brass serpent and the healing power of Christ, who hung upon the cross. It is this origin that has led some historians to claim that the thaler image of the serpent cross is the origin of the dollar sign. The idea that the dollar symbol was derived from the cross of Christ was remembered in American literature in 1920, 15 years before the new dollar bill was designed. In his novel, Main Street, Sinclair Lewis reports a conversation between the half-Yank and half-Swede, Borgstrom, and the heroine of the novel, Carol. Borgstrom, lamenting the power of bankers, points out that the dollar sign has chased the crucifix clean off the map. This half-joke would have meaning only for those who knew that the dollar sign had been derived from a crucifix. A few lines later on, Borgstrom admitted that he was a bookworm. The word dollar was in use in English at the beginning of the 17th century. The word dollar was used in an English translation of a survey of the kingdoms of the world published in 1603. This part of the text deals with the kingdom of what was then called Hungerland or Hungary. The word dollar appears in the last full line below. And I could try to read that, but my Ethiopian English is a little rusty. But in any case, the last part of this, it says that every householder should find a man and guy and pay him in dollars of money for entertainment of, I guess that's the soldiers. This dollar symbol was widely used in America at the end of the 18th century. The Continental Congress, following the advice of Thomas Jefferson, designed the Capitol, adapted the dollar as the money unit of the United States in 1785. In his own report, Jefferson had used a variant of the symbol for the dollar. At that time, there were a number of ways of writing the symbol, and not everyone used these symbols. For example, in corresponding relating to the continental currency printed in 1797, the English pound symbol was used, yet the dollar was symbolized by the letter D. In an official tariff of imports duties published in 1824, the dollar symbol was used. The dollar symbol may have been derived from the ecumenical tradition. The biblical story of the brazen serpents had impressed the alchemists long before the thaler was minted. I bet. In consequence, the alchemists often represented the brazen serpent in their works in both pictorial and symbolic forms. One of the symbolic forms, which was linked with the idea of healing, was represented as follows. So you have the Tau cross with the S. It's very interesting. This was a version of brazen serpent represented as the columnar line on a Tau cross. Since the brazen serpent image appeared on the thaler, the original dollar, then it follows that the dollar symbol may have been the origin of the modern symbol for the dollar, the now familiar dollar sign. The original name dollar was linked with a holy number. In medieval period, each letter of the alphabet was associated with a particular number. Every word had a particular numerical value made from the addition of the letter number in that word. For example, the Hebrew word for the serpent of Moses was written in Hebrew and had the sound, and I think I am right on this, nakash. I could be completely wrong. The numerical equivalent of this word was N held 50, the CH 8, the SH 300, which a total of 358. This means that the numerical equivalent of the serpent of Moses was 358. Now, the number of the Hebrew word for Messiah, and which is the sound of Mashiach, was also 358, M40, SH 300, I10, the CH8, total 358. This correspondence between the numerical equivalents of the two words allowed magicians to draw a connection between the brazen serpent and the Messiah. Just as the serpent of the Old Testament was raised on the pole to heal the Israelites, so was the Messiah raised on the cross to heal the world. This view of numerical symbolism explains why the brazen serpent image used by the alchemist was regarded with particular veneration. Besides being an image of the healing serpent, it was also a portrayal of Christ on the cross. In numerology, one is allowed to reduce numbers. This is to say, one adds the numbers together as individual units to obtain a second figure. If you add together 3, 5, 8, you obtain 16. There are 16 words in the two rondel designs of the dollar bill. Counting the Latin date on the bottom of the pyramid, we have the Annuit Septis, was just 2 words, the Latin date, 1 word, Novus Ordero Seclorum, 3 words, the Great Seal, 3 words, E Pluribus Unum, 3 words, of the United States, 4 words. If you further reduce the number 16, you obtain 7. There are 7 words beneath the 2 roundels, the Great Seal of the United States. The word 1 appears 7 times on the back of the dollar bill. The Latin unum is an eagle, rotel motto, means 1. In magical numerology, the number 7 is regarded with a special veneration. It is a deeply religious number, representing the triumph of spirit over matter. Certain texts that deal with the meaning of numbers insist that 7 stands for the complete temple. There is a connection between the complete temple and the incomplete pyramid of the dollar bill rondel. It is possible that the dollar symbol was derived from astrology. The medieval astrologers sometimes used a dollar symbol to denote the planet Mercury. the planet that had ruled over such things as commerce. The form of this symbol is said to have been derived from the image of a snake curling along a rod or staff. Two versions of this early symbolism are as follows. Strange, isn't it? All connected. Look at that. When I see people that, have the gold with the dollar symbol, and I go, you have no idea what you're wearing. None. I digress. The wand, or caduceus, carried by the god Mercury, consisted of a rod with two serpents curled around it. And that is, we all look at that symbol and go, uh-huh. According to the astrological tradition, Mercury ruled finance, banking, and so on. So it is not at all unreasonable that the symbol should be used to denote currency. Now, here's a little secret. You want to get some wealth in your life? Make a little prayer to Mercury. See how it responds. Of course, this is all conspiracy theory. This is reality. Which is which? The 16th century woodcut above shows Mercury holding a pair of serpents in his right hand and a bag of money in his left. The serpents are intended as references to the caduceus, the bag of money to Mercury's rule over banking, commerce, and financial transactions. If I had learned this decades ago and gave simple recognition to this god, I bet you there would be a different outcome. Just saying. It is traditional for banks to have sculpted models of either Mercury or the caduceus on their facades or doors. The Bank of England in London has a caduceus on either side of the main doors. Above the main portal of the Federal Reserve Building in Washington, D.C., is the sculpture of a female personification of America holding a caduceus. This was sculptured in 1937, 2 years after the modern dollar bill was designed and printed. If we could see in the total spectrum, if you were in like Washington, D.C., it is a central position of great power, no matter how fucked up it is. And it's the humans that really have messed it up. It's recognized. The same thing with London and several other of the key portals in the world. And that's Moscow. And I know I'm missing one, but anyway. But they dedicate these buildings to these gods. When you put it in stone, that's worship. That's acknowledgement. Now, the ignorant will look at that and go, oh, it's a strange kind of carving, isn't it? I wonder why they did that. Oh, it doesn't make any sense. Actually, it does. Makes a lot of sense. All right, the dollar bill and the seal. The two rondelles on the dollar bill are used on the designs of the Great Seal of the United States. In 1935, Franklin D. Roosevelt, which I have to say, I believe he was a 32nd degree Mason, wasn't he? I mean, Franklin Roosevelt and Oak Island. I mean, Roosevelt was looking for the Templars' treasures. He knew the legend that if you find it, those relics have great power endued into them. And that's what he was looking for. And then the story gets really weird. But anyway, it said he ordered that a new dollar bill should be designed. He requested that this design should be based on the symbolism of the Great Seal of America. This design was executed by Edward M. Weeks of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And remember this cat. So, who is this cat, right? The averse of this was the famous American eagle with the shield at its breast. The reverse was the equally famous pyramid design. Both of these designs contain magical and Masonic symbols, and Roosevelt was aware of this. As we have seen, the dollar bill itself informs us that the pyramid and eagle rondelles are derived from the Great Seal of America. Beneath the two rondelles on the dollar bill is a broken inscription. Beneath the pyramid rondelle are the words, the Great Seal. Beneath the eagle rondelle are the words of the United States. The designer of the dollar bill had no official model for the pyramid rondelle. By 1935, there were in existence several versions of the Great Seal, each containing minor variations of symbolism. The designer of the bill, Edward M. Weeks, selected that version of the eagle rondelle that was currently in use. This particular version had been in official use since 1904. Now you think about the Federal Reserve. I mean, this is the perfect Dean Koontz novel. I mean, this has got occultism, magic. I mean, it's all there. You got wizards that are acting as politicians that are grand wizards, and not with the KKK, but in the esoteric teachings. Wild, but no one will believe that. That's why it's so believable. However, the reverse of the seal, that is the pyramid rondelle, has never been used in official business, and no die for this design existed. Accordingly, the designer selected as a basis for his new dollar bill a painting of the reverse. This had been reproduced in an official book dealing with the history of the seal and published in 1909. Drawings based on the two designs for the seal from this 1909 source are as given below. I mean, you start looking at this and you're going, okay, I'm not seeing what is actually being said, huh? But you look at this and we're most of it, we go, they're saying something here. It's powerful magic. These may be compared with the $2 bill rondelles above in 8. If you examine the 4 rondelles carefully, you will see some important differences between the seal design and the rondelle of the dollar bill. Some of the more important differences are listed on pages 158. We won't get to that today, but buy the book. The dollar bill of 1935 was designed by Freemasons. Really? The most influential men involved in the design of the dollar bill of 1935 were Freemasons. Among these were the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the Secretary of Agriculture, Harry A. Wallace, and the Secretary of Treasury, Henry Montagu. All 3 were Masons. The Masonic interest in symbols may explain why the dollar bill was carefully designed to convey a wide range of secret symbolism. As we shall discover, among these Masonic symbols are the radiant eye above the truncated pyramid and the 5-pointed star. 11. The 2 rondelles were made part of the design of the dollar bill in 1935. The suggestions. Now, I just want to make a commentary. 1935, so if you stop the clock right there and you start going backwards, you can begin to see, and if you study the occult, there was this rebirth, this resurrection, resurgence of spiritualism that began with Queen Elizabeth I, with John Dee. I think he was probably the primary person that gave that hidden knowledge back out. I'm convinced that Roosevelt met with Crowley. We know Churchill did. And they're too close in their beliefs. And I could only imagine what that meeting must have looked like. Wow. Wallace's suggestion was accepted. The President of the United States officially approved the design for the dollar bill on or near July 1st, 1935. Below is a copy of Franklin D's personal suggestions for changing the order of the two rondelles so that the eagle rondelle would appear on the right. 12. The identity of the designer of the Great Seal is not known. It has never been possible to ascribe the design of the Great Seal to any particular individual. The design for the shield evolved over a number of years, during which time different symbols and designs were proposed by a number of individuals. The original design was discussed and considered by at least a dozen officials, including men of such standing as Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Always those two. Even after the first die for the seal was cut in 1782, the design was not completed according to the instructions given by Congress. As we shall see, the three men who contributed most to the design of the seal were William Barton of Pennsylvania, Secretary of Congress Charles Thomson, and artist Pierre Eugène de Chaumette. The design of the seal evolved with the passing of years. From time to time, the design of the Great Seal was amended. Each time a die wore out, changes were made to the original design, some of them for the worse, some for the better. Below, we shall examine the main stages in these adjustments, which lead to the design of the dollar bill rondelles. And what I'm trying to get here, folks, this, you imagine all around the world, this imagery, these symbols representing these gods. Now, I do find it curious that apparently these gods are fickle, because it seems like they're courting other so-called devotees. I digress. For the moment, it may be useful to compare the earliest official seal versed with the corresponding design of the modern dollar bill. And I've looked at this, and it's very, very interesting. Complete difference of knowledge, or should I say, more refined. That was kind of the impression I got from there. It said it was quite reasonable that the design for the seal should have been the work of a committee and the result of meeting of the minds, of many minds. However, the cutting of the die for the seal to make from it a metal impress could have been the work of only one man. The identity of this individual is not known for sure. However, it seems likely that it was cut by Robert Scott in Philadelphia in 1782. Amazing how history suddenly, well, I don't know. I thought you wrote it down. Scott was a Mason. This may explain certain curious things about the design of the first seal. It contains several symbols derived from the magical tradition. As we shall see, most of these symbols were transmitted to the design of the dollar bill. They're using the term magical. If we are to understand the source of the secret symbolism of the dollar bill, we must examine the major changes in the seal design. Altogether, there were 4 different seal designs adapted for official use in the United States. The earliest design was that of 1782. The 4th design, officially adapted in 1904, was the basis for the eagle rondelle on the dollar bill. In the next section, we shall examine the design for the 4 historic seals. In the seal of 1782, some effort was made to make use of the number 13, the number of original colonies to oppose Britain. Whoever cut the die for the Great Seal appears to have been the first to arrange the 13 stars in a star-like pattern above the head of the eagle. The eagle grasped 13 arrows in its left talon. However, the olive branch in its right talon consists of 16 leaves. The wings of the eagle, which might easily have consisted of 13 feathers, were built up from 11 to the right of the eagle and 12 to the left. Oh, really? The star on the first Great Seal of 1782 were six-pointed. By strange coincidence, a drawing made of the seal for the Columbian magazine in 1786 portrayed 13 five-pointed stars around the head of the eagle below. Man, this is heavy occultism. No one ever thinks about it. The seal of the United States was first used on an official document dated September 16, 1782. This document authorized George Washington to negotiate with the British and to sign an agreement for the exchange and treatment of prisoners of war. The symbolism of the 13 arrows is often misunderstood. They are not intended as symbols of aggression, as the darker side of the olive-bearing coin. In Clarence Thompson's report on the design of the seal, made it clear that the arrows and olive branch represent the power of peace and war exclusively vested in Congress. Their heraldic meaning is that the United States will only go to war after provocation. They are Jonathan arrows, intended as a shot across the bows of any threatening enemy. The seal design of 1841 was used until the seal of 1782 was used until 1841, by which time it was so badly worn that it needed replacing. The worn original is now in the National Archives. The new die was cut in 1841 by John Peter Van Ness Throp, then living in Washington, D.C. And I was thinking to myself, when I read this, I went, so he's in Washington, D.C., you know, you're getting to about the mid-19th century. And I thought, how odd that an engravist would be in Washington, D.C. Then I thought about it. Not odd at all. Probably the only place he could probably get good work. All right, so the stars on this seal were changed so as to become five-pointed. The eagle grasped only 6 arrows in its talons. There were 17 leaves on the olive branch, and long feathers of the eagle's wings were still unevenly distributed. The right wing had 14 in feathers, the left wing had 15. The seal of 1841 was used until 1877, when it began to show signs of wear. The seal of 1877 was cut by German engraver Hermann Baumgarten, who lived in Washington, D.C. This seal closely resembled that of the 1841. In 1885, the firm of Tiffany and Company, in collaboration with many advisors and historians, designed a new seal. This design corrected several errors that had been crept into the seal as early as 1873. The most important of these changes were as follows. The stars were retained as five-pointed. They were now 13 leaves on the olive branch and 13 berries on the same branch. There were 13 arrows in the talons of the eagle. The eagle was clearly represented as the American bald-headed eagle. The clouds around the constellation formed a complete ring around the glory. Now, when I read this, I went, how interesting. And if you don't think that this is deep, well, that's okay. Some of us do. In 1904, the new die was cut by Max Zettler. In order to reveal the heraldic colors, that had been specified for the design of 1782, but not incorporated into the seal, Zettler changed the design of the radiance around the star. In the place of the 65 radiants that appeared in the Tiffany design, Zettler introduced 25 lines of radiance and as many broken dotted lines. Some of these consisted of 2 dots, others 3. Altogether, there were 55 dots and 25 lines on this glory. A drawing is reproduced below. This design was the basis for the eagle rondelle in the dollar bill. The stars. This is the one that I'm going, how interesting. What has been created here? There are 13 stars on the face of the dollar bill. However, these are not so evident as those on the constellation above the eagle on the back of the bill. They are located on the chevron of the seal of the Department of Treasury seal, printed over the top of the one, to the left of Washington's portrait. This seal contains a balance and a key, both appropriate symbols for a Treasury Department. The starry chevron is an obvious reference to the country that the balance and key serve. And I looked at this, and this kind of also reminded me of a TR3. It's like, those triangle. Anyway, there are 14 stars in the back of the dollar bill. It is widely believed that there are 13 stars on the back of the dollar bill above the head of the eagle. In fact, there are really 14. The 13 5-pointed stars are arranged in such a way to form a 6-pointed star. This geometric arrangement of 13 stars is not the only one possible. For example, the Confederado copper coin, minted in 1785, represents the groups of 13 in the form of 2 superimposed crosses. Wow, deep. In effect, this constellation has appeared of being an 8-pointed star. Now remember that word constellation, because it starts getting a little strange. The important thing is that the 8-pointed arrangement has no particular important magical associations, whereas the 6-pointed arrangement found on the dollar bill does have such associations. The 13 5-pointed stars within the constellation arrangement above the head of the dollar eagle are all arranged so that their points are upright. In books of popular magic, it is sometimes claimed that the inverted star or pinnacle is a sign of evil. That is a bringer of bad fortune. This idea is nonsensical. Examples of inverted 5-pointed stars are found in many works of art in several American cities, including Washington, D.C. There are several examples of bronze friezes sculptured by Laurie Lee in 1923. In the facade at the National Academy of Science building in Washington, 2 inverted stars may be seen above the Egyptian pyramid, above the head of the Greek philosopher Thales, and 2 more at the feet of Euclid and Democritus behind Thales. That's why I loved when I had a chance to, and I was in D.C. quite a bit in my past, and now I'm getting it. Now I'm realizing that even though my head was in a different place, I was still drawn to this imagery. Yeah. Who knows how many are drawn to the same thing? These stars alternate with solar symbols along with the frieze. Each sun has 13 main radiants, with 13 subsidiary radiants peeping out between the larger ones. Below is a detail of the frieze from the feet of the left foot of Thales. The group of 13 stars above the head of the eagle are based on magical symbol. As we have seen, the 13 stars above the dollar eagle have been arranged as to represent two interlocked triangles. This is the seal of Solomon, or the Star of David, a symbol that is widely used in magical texts under a variety of magical names. The symbolism of this star is just a little deeper than one might at first imagine. The outer points number 6. The word dollar has 6 letters. The word one appears on this side of the dollar bill 6 times. The inner spaces of the seal of Solomon number is 7. This is the same number as the words appearing in the Great Seal of the United States beneath the 2 rondelles. It is also the same as the number of letters in the word America. It is also the same as the number of words in the 2 rondelles. If we count the Latin date, it is also the same as the number of words on top and bottom of the rondelle face, the United States of America, and $1. There's no way this is coincidence. And the mind, the knowledge of the mind, a human mind that is there, that is, wow, powerful, powerful stuff here, folks. Cheers, everyone. The stars on the first design of the Great Seal had 6 points. The chief difference between the eagle rondelle and the dollar bill and the eagle on the first Great Seal, 1782, was in the number of radiants or points on the stars above the head of the eagle. On the dollar bill rondelle, the 13 stars have 5 radiants. The 13 stars in the Great Seal of 1782 had 6 radiants. The majority of states that made use of the stars in their official seals insisted on 5-pointed stars. How interesting. The outstanding example, is the seal of Oklahoma, the central device of which consists of a large encircled 5-pointed star on a ground set with 5 groups of 9 stars, 45 in all. The total number of stars is intended to commemorate the fact that it was the 46th state. The stars and stripes on the dollar bill were not derived from the coat of arms of George Washington. The ancient arms of the Washington family are still preserved in several places in England. These arms display the stars and stripes, which many people believe was the source of the stars and stripes of the American flag. The example below is a copy from the one carved in stone above the front entrance of the Solgrave Manor in Northamptonshire, which was formerly owned by Lawrence Washington, one of George Washington's forebears. Lawrence had purchased the land from King Henry VIII and built upon it its existing manor. These arms display 5-pointed stars in the heraldry called mullets, the 2 horizontal stripes or bars. The arms, adapted by George Washington's personal bookplate, are shown alongside. These might have influenced the design of the late 18th century American coinage. However, the fact that the stars on the original design of the seal were 6-pointed rules out Washington's arms as the source of the stars and stripes that appear on the Great Seal. As a matter of fact, the early interest in 6-pointed stars never entirely died out in American symbolism. For example, the seal of the state of Maryland, used until 1854, centered on a shield-bearing eagle, over the head of which is an arc of 13 stars. These stars are 6-pointed. The Great Star, in which this rondelle is set, has 13 radiants. Are y'all keeping notes on this? There is a test. I mean, how you cannot walk away from this class today and go, okay, think about what this, it's mind-boggling. The symbolism of the stars on the dollar bill. When the stars were first used on the proposed design of the Great Seal, the Secretary of the Continental Congress, Charles Thomson, referred to them as a constellation. Now, this is key because something was spoken into existence that I think that's where it would probably be, we might even discover. These first appeared in a sketch for the seal drawn personally by Thomson. We see that the 13 stars are six-pointed and are represented in disorderly fashion above the head of the eagle. By this time, a constellation of stars was already being used as symbols of the United States. I mean, folks, this is deep. This is really deep. I mean, we know sigils, we know symbols. We've studied it here enough. This is so freaking deep. I continue. A number of coins had already been minted with the constellation of 13 stars around a radiant star of 13 points. In the center of one, minted in 1783, is an eye. The Latin on this coin, Constellatio Nova, means new constellation. No doubt this was intended to suggest that the United States was a new constellation of stars suddenly appearing in the skies. These origins suggest that the 13 small stars on the dollar bill are intended to represent the United States as a new constellation in the sky. It is this interpretation that leads us to another interesting connection that the dollar bill has with magic symbolism. The earliest five-pointed star. The earliest known use of the five-pointed star was in ancient Egypt. It was a hieroglyphic with the name Shaba, symbolized the spiritual world and the realm of stars. Folks, get ready. I'm going to go a little bit over because we're so far down the rabbit hole. Yeah. So check it out. You've seen this. The Shaba may be seen at the top of the central collection of the hieroglyphics above. This is the name of the goddess Isis, who is represented below in the hieroglyphics. For example, further examples of Shaba stars are given on page 53. The walls and ceilings of certain interior chambers in some Egyptian pyramid chambers are entirely covered in a bas-relief carving of five-pointed Shaba stars. The earliest known official use of the five-pointed star in North America. The earliest official use of the five-pointed star in North America was on coinage introduced in the Bermudas in 1616. All denominations of this coin had the image of the sailing ship on the reverse. On the obverse above was a hog. Around the hog was the inscription Summer Islands. In the 17th century, named the Bermudas and two five-pointed stars. The five-pointed star may have come to North America by way of the arms of Sir Francis Bacon. Are you fucking kidding me? Who knew William Shakespeare or may have been William Shakespeare. It is possible. And where do we know Francis Bacon from? Well, it's the King James Bible, ladies and gentlemen. And anyone who said that, you get the gold star. And here he is again. You see the difference between someone who is just merely planning a strategy and a strategist is a strategist knows sometimes it takes hundreds, maybe thousands of years to reach the goal. It is possible that both the hog and the five-pointed star on the coin we have just examined were introduced from Sir Francis Bacon's coat of arms. At the time the hog money was made, Bacon was the Attorney General of England. Towards the end of 1616, he was appointed Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. Man, this is God Freemasonry all over it. The crest of this arms was a hog, a play on Bacon's name, and on the shield were two pairs of five-pointed stars. William Shakespeare mentioned the Bermudas, which he called the Barmouths, in his play The Tempest. Coincidence? The oldest known five-pointed star in the Americas appeared in a drawing of an event witnessed in Florida made by a French artist. This drawing has survived as a 16th century engraving, portrays a North American shaman contorted in a trance within a magic circle. At the forefront of the circle is a five-pointed star. You can't make this shit up. And I mean, just connect the freaking dots. Now, someone controls this power. They're either so messed up in the head or they're asleep. I don't know which. Woof! The drawing was turned into a painting by the French artist Jacques Lemoine de Morgue in about 1564, after he had returned from Florida and settled in England. The original painting has been lost, but it was engraved and published in 1591. The detail of the image above is from one of these engravings. Seriously, folks, check that out. Sometimes I feel like a child just overwhelmed with, the information. No doubt it is an ancient accident that the outer edge of the modern official seal of Florida should display a five-pointed star. The idea of the new constellation of 13 stars was probably derived from the design of the national flag approved in 1777. On June 14th, 1777, Congress officially approved the design for the national flag, consisting of 13 stripes alternating red with white and a union of 13 white stars upon a blue background. The arrangement of 13 stars on the Great Seal was probably suggested by this officially approved design. And there it is. The five-pointed star is a powerful magical symbol with several meanings. It is associated with a healthy physical body and spirit. Here we shall examine only two of these meanings. We shall see how it is used as a symbol of health and how it is used to symbolize the passage of time. The five-pointed pinnacle was widely used as a symbol of health, or more exactly, of those forces in the body that promoted health. This form of pentacle was popular during the Renaissance, especially as an amulet. Below is a woodcut showing an example of a ring on a bezel of which has been engraved a five-pointed star. This star has been reproduced alongside to show clearly the letters written around it. Alongside each of the five rays are five letters which spell out the word solace, the Latin word for health. Both star and word were designed to invoke their powers to protect the health and well-being of the wearer. If you got Franklin and Jefferson and others wearing these same symbols, the symbolism behind the five-lettered word solace was connected with the notion, widely held in magical circles, that a healthy physical body was a reflection of a healthy spirit. If the invisible spirit was morally healthy, then the human body would be physically healthy. On this level, the five-pointed star represents the higher spirit. Perhaps the solace design, which is very ancient, is one reason why the Greek philosopher Pythagoras associated the number 5 with healing. Since the name of Jesus has 5 letters, the early Christian numerologists recognized the power of the pentacle and used it as an amulet. The amulet below shows Jesus Christ standing in front of a pentacle. They don't teach you this shit in Sunday school. Guarantee it. This imagery, which portrayed Jesus as the great healer of mankind, was partly linked with the idea that the number 5 was also the number of rebirth or resurrection. The 5-pointed star is a magical symbol linked with duration and time. The connection that the 5-pointed star has with health and with physical body is expressed in a multitude of magical diagrams. One image that was widely used by magicians was a figure of a man inscribed within the pentagram. In such diagrams, each of the 5 pointeds is related to one of the 5 extremities of the body: head, hands, and feet. Okay, I can see that I really went over, but if you want to, we can pick up back on this one, but yeah. And then, of course, we see all of this working with Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, and Venus. Okay. Well, I hope you found this somewhat illuminating. I know I have. It is just, it's overwhelming. And I don't believe that this magic is in any way stopped. In fact, we know that it hasn't. If you drive a car, you're driving an same type of thing. You're driving with that corporate egregore, you know, the logo, the symbol. So what's happening? Let's see. Lucky Stone. The book is The Secret Symbol of the Dollar Bill. Yes. Thank you, Lucky. Thank you. Available on Amazon. Of course, I have it on my Kindle, and he's got the other book. It's, folks, the United States is it's a misnomer to say that, you know, we're a religious nation. We are a nation of paganism. Occultism reigns supreme. And the thing about it is, we live where there's this guise of this one particular belief. You got a potential presidential candidate that's riding on that. And it's messed up. It's not that way at all. And if you don't recognize this power would pass you right by and you would be oblivious to it. Why? You're ignorant of it. You got no knowledge of it. And I would dare say many of us, we haven't even scratched the surface. But this is how the door is opened. I'll guarantee you the next time you're exchanging currency, you're going to think about what's really going on here. I mean, it's deep. All right. Yeah, check out Nina's show on Sunday. She's got her Robert V with the series on the Anunnaki. How many dimensions does the dollar bill affect? Lost in space, that's a really good question. Paul Joe, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, far out, man. So, wow. I mean, you cannot, it's just amazing. I'll share this little thing. There was a time in my youth, but I had taken some window pane, and that trip really sent me out there. It was really difficult to maintain what I was seeing, feeling, perceiving, and what was really happening in reality, or this reality, or whatever this reality is. And it was something I had to really discipline myself. It was just I was a young mind at that time, but it can be done. And this is kind of that feeling. You know, this is here. You know it. You can do the same reading. You can do the same research, and you just walk away realizing, wow, if you don't know occultism, you are highly disadvantaged. And I dare say the vast majority of politicians in Congress, in the Senate, and et cetera, even those people working in those buildings, don't have a clue. But wow, that's a lot of psychic energy. All right, folks. Thank you very, very much. Bonnie says, window pane. Yeah, that would, woo, that's all I got to say about that. Well, much love to y'all. I appreciate that, all of you. It's always an adventure. I know I really went over, but this is one of those subjects that, wow, I mean, there's so much that can be built upon this. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how the spirits will lead us. So, all right, everyone, until we meet again, stay beautiful, speak in favor over you, and then you in turn speak favor over everything in your life. And that's how we can change this to where discourses are no longer about separation, calling people name, threatening, where you can begin to say, I speak favor over you. That invokes this thing that says, well, then you're not my enemy then. Maybe we can talk. And then you begin to talk and you realize that favor has opened a door that can lead to some beautiful things. All right, stay beautiful until we see you again.